This week, we're very happy to welcome on as our special guest and a new friend of the show, a guy who covers the Rangers for Newday Sports. We're big fans of his work, and we're so happy he's here to break down games 1 through 3 and preview game 4 with us. So welcome to the show, Colin Stephenson. Colin, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well. I mean, I hear you guys have not had great weather this weekend, and you finally saw the sun in Pittsburgh today, so it was nice.
Yeah, we should have added that you are live in Pittsburgh right now. I should have said that in the intro, but whatever. So how is the whole vibe in the city of Pittsburgh?
I will say this about Pittsburgh: they love their Penguins. They really do. I mean,
yeah,
more probably than a lot of places, because they don't have the NBA. Let's face it, the Pirates are out of town and the Steelers are out of season. So
right,
this is what you got. And I think, and then the other thing too is that they've made the playoffs 16 years in a row, and I think that the fans here take pride in that. And they really back their team. So it's a lot of fun. It's really loud in the building for Game 3. Somebody was asking me if it was louder than it was in the Garden for 1 and 2, and I have to say, I think it was.
Yeah. It sounded really loud from my TV. I mean, those
that horn is so fans, annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate the Let's Go Pens horn.
The fans really brought it last night. It was, it was nice to see. And you know what? The other thing too is, the Rangers fans really travel. So normally you go to these places and a lot of times there's a lot of Ranger fans there. And I don't think there was quite as many there last night as I'm used to seeing on the road. So that made a difference too.
Yeah, cool. And before we get into some more Rangers, I mean, I'd love to start out and, how'd you get into writing and what was it about hockey that really drew you into the sport for those who may not know?
Well, so you should know that I'm an immigrant, right? I came from the West Indies. I come from Jamaica, and we don't have ice in Jamaica. We don't have hockey there. We have field hockey, but we don't have ice hockey. But I came at a time. I'm in my late 50s now, so I came to the States in the 70s, and I'd grown up watching soccer. And there was soccer here. I think they had the NASL and Cosmos and all that, but it wasn't a big thing. And so, I took to hockey because I saw the similarities. You have a goal at each end, and you got to pass and things like that. And also, I thought the skating was cool. So, so that's kind of how I got into hockey. And then, I know I cover the Rangers now, and but I grew up watching the Islanders quite a bit, and they were winning Stanley Cups in those days, and it was quite exciting, and so I followed the Islanders quite a bit, and then I think that was almost like a golden age for hockey in New York, because it mattered, like the daily newspapers all covered hockey and the Islanders and the Rangers. The one time when they knocked off the Islanders in '79,
right.
And it got a lot of media coverage, and I was really all about that. And I just decided, when I went to college and I started getting decent grades in my writing classes and not such good grades in my computer classes, which was my major, I decided to switch to journalism and do that and see if I could be a sports writer. And that's kind of how I got there. But, it was a long time ago. I mean, the path to getting there now is a lot different than it was.
Right.
I did it.
Did you go to college in the States?
I did. Yeah. No, I moved to the States in high school. So I grew up in New Jersey, and you can obviously you don't hear a Jamaican accent because I kind of adopted this one over the last 40 years or however long I've been here.
Right.
Well, I don't hear a New Jersey accent either.
Well, that's a tricky one. That's a lot harder to pick up than the basic TV news accent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I speak on behalf of all Ranger fans. We're happy to have you. So, going back to a little hockey here. So, what has the intensity been like for these guys? How's it been really being able to cover the Rangers throughout the playoffs for the first time in 5 years? And, what's the vibe of the locker room and so on?
It's really cool. It's really cool to watch some of these young guys play in the playoffs for the first time. And even it's been 5 years, right? So even
Right.
the veteran guys, even the Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, who, you know, are the two surviving guys from, or the two remaining guys, I don't want to say surviving, but the two remaining guys from the last Rangers playoff team. It's been 5 years since they've played. So it's been a long time since they've been in it. And but just to watch the young guys fascinate me. The Kakos and the Heedles and the Lafreniers and the Keandre Millers and the Braden Schneiders. You know, those guys, they fascinate me because they belong, man. I mean, like they've never played playoff hockey before. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
Kako and Heedle played in the bubble, but I don't think they really consider
doesn't
that to
count.
be playoff hockey. So this is a first for all these guys, and you know, they look like they belong, and it's really really cool to watch. Now, you know, to see, you know, we don't have the access to the players that we did back pre-COVID, right? And we're
Right.
not in the locker rooms, so we're limited to, you know, press room setting or you know, press conference like settings to our access to these guys. Yeah, you know, and it's better than when we did it on Zoom because, you know, you can, you know, you can laugh and joke. You know, I can talk to Trouba about his playoff beard coming in nice and stupid
Right.
stuff like that to kind of make a connection with these guys. But, you know, we're not there every day, so I can't tell you what the locker room actually feels like, but it's easier on the road because we are around a little bit more and we do kind of see them at least walking around the locker room, even if we're not, you know, we're not in the room. So we'll see them in the press box and, you know, you can get a conversation with a guy and stuff. But no, I think, you know, in terms of the vibe, I think they really, really were all just excited to be there. You know, I mean, like they went through this great season. And for those guys who have been here for most of the rebuild or part of the rebuild, you know, they really appreciate this now in a way that maybe they wouldn't have before. Like, you know, the guys that came, Andrew Kopp and Frank Vetrano, those guys were in the playoffs last year. So it's maybe not, it doesn't mean as much to them, but a guy like Trouba, who's been here now, I guess this is what is his third year.
Third year, yeah.
You know, so he didn't make the playoffs in either the first two, you know, and Panarin, same thing. It means a lot more to those guys to kind of be here and play at the time of year that everybody wants to play at, to be honest.
Yeah, nonetheless playing in a really intense series for sure. So
yeah, and this was the matchup, by the way, I think that we all wanted if you're a Ranger fan, right?
We all wanted it. Yeah.
Maybe not those of us that are reporters. You know, my son goes to college in Washington, so I was kind of hoping for Washington. I could get a free trip to go see him. But beyond that, no, I think this was the matchup I think most people thought was the best matchup for the Rangers, just because, like Tristan Jarry was injured, so you knew that they were going to go with a backup goalie, just because let's face it, they lost in the first round last year to the Islanders. They lost in the preliminary round of the bubble. They didn't even make it to the 16-team playoff. I mean, they got bounced in the qualifying series, and the year before that, they got swept in the first round by the Islanders. So, it's had the look of a team that's kind of aging.
Right.
Crosby's 34 now. He's going to be 35 in the summer. Crystal Tang is 35, so it had the feel of a team that's really aging and kind of hanging on, and their goaltending was always a question. So it kind of seemed, when you looked at it beforehand, that, this is the matchup you want. This is the team that's vulnerable and probably gives you the best chance to advance. And, so far it's not necessarily working out like that. Louis Domingue has stepped in and kind of, played better than I think any of us could have reasonably expected him to.
And obviously the playoffs are a whole different, type of animal. And something that I kind of stressed on in the regular season with Cody and on this show is that the Penguins only scored 1 5-on-5 goal in 4 games against the Rangers. And now through 3 playoff games, we've seen the Penguins pretty much dominate the 5-on-5 play, for the most part, at least. What do you think has been the biggest difference? I know there's been like a lot of defensive breakdowns, and maybe Igor hasn't been wasn't his best in game 3, but he was stellar in games 1 and 2. But what do you think has changed through the course of the regular season to now? Is it just that playoff intensity? Like I don't understand how, the Penguins just look dominant right now, where in the regular season, it was pretty much all Rangers at 5-on-5.
Well, I got 2 words for you: Sidney Crosby. The guy, he's had a fabulous series, but it's only 3 games old, right? So
yeah,
it can, and that's the beauty of playoff hockey. Anything can change and go 180 degrees at any time. But he's been great for these first 3 games, and he's been better in these 3 games than he was in that 4 game in the 4 games in the regular season. He was fine. He's Sidney Crosby. I mean, you don't want to overlook a guy like that, but he's been really, really good. And if you look at, I mean, they didn't score a goal last night until the empty netter by Gensel, but they had that line had 5 out of their first 6 goals, right? Mm-hmm. So, figuring out how to stop Sidney Crosby was a big problem. And even again, I go back to last season, he wasn't this good against the Islanders. He wasn't, I don't remember. I didn't see their qualifying loss 2 years ago, but I saw the Islanders playoff, in 2019, and he wasn't nearly this good either. So mm-hmm. he's playing some great hockey right now. Probably better than he's played, at least in the last couple of playoffs at least. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then, I think that they've gotten better goaltending than we've expected.
Right.
Like the Smith, went in there and, listen, I don't have the, if I mean, I was on some of, Andrew Gross's Islanders podcasts last year, and people who listen to that know that I don't have the highest opinion of Tristan Jarry to start with. I will say that he had a great season this year. So, I didn't have much of a great opinion of him last year. I didn't think he was good enough, and he certainly wasn't. But he had a great season this year, and then he got hurt. So, you don't expect that the backup goalie is going to beat you when you have Igor Shesterkin in your net.
Right.
So, and I think to some degree they've kind of caught the Rangers by surprise, and they've got Sidney Crosby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why Crosby was, the best player in the league for a really long time. But
still the smartest.
Yeah.
I mean, so he was the best, right? And now he's not the best because he's almost 35 years old, and Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and all these guys, but he's still really, really good.
I know. And you had mentioned anything can change in this series. So what do you think are a few positives that our team can really take away from Game 3 and apply it to Game 4 and for the rest of the series moving forward?
Well, I think, one thing that, I talked about the young guys earlier. I mean, the young guys got their first goal in Game 3, right? Which is Kakko.
Yeah.
And not only did he get the goal, but he got the goal in a way like he shot the puck off the rush, which, to me is a sign that, okay, he's taking it seriously now. He's going to shoot the puck because he's been overpassing in the first few games, first couple of games, right? I mean, you agree with me on that, right? I mean, he's passed when he probably should have shot. I mean, he's a guy who can hold the puck. I mean, he's very strong on the puck, and he creates a lot of stuff just because he's able to do that. But sometimes you want him to shoot the puck, and he holds it a little bit too long. So the fact that he shot the puck off the rush last night, to me, is a good sign. Now, is that the only sign? No. Andrew Kopp has a goal in every game, right? Yeah. So that's a guy who's playing well right now, and he plays with Panarin. So I mean, I think I think everything's in place. And then here's the other thing. Igor is not good. Igor is going to bounce back from this. I mean, you just know it, right? I mean, he gets pulled after the first game. He didn't like that. Well, it's probably the best thing for him because he's seen so many shots in the first 2 games.
Got to be gassed.
And he wasn't really, he got a little scrambly there. He wasn't catching the puck cleanly, and he was fudging around and flailing around and giving up rebounds he doesn't give up. So I think it was a smart play to pull him, right? And, he watches the last 2 periods, and, we all know what to expect, that this guy's going to be really, really good tomorrow night, Monday, when they play in Game 4. And so if you have Igor playing at the level that you're used to seeing, then all things are possible.
Yeah. And I think the kid line has really looked fantastic. Jonny knows firsthand. I've been a little critical of Hedl in the past throughout the season, but I mean, I think he's playing some really good all around hockey, and they just need to really keep chipping away, and like more goals will follow for sure. And so you did mention Igor, and Jonny and I actually talked about this before. Is that Chris Kreider quote that came out true, where he said, chanting Igor's name may have been a mistake on their part. We'll see. I didn't
hear that. Like, it's entirely possible it's true. Okay. He didn't say that in the press conference last night. So I don't know if he may have said that
Yeah.
Probably just the group chat.
Someone else.
Well,
but yeah, no, I think he, if he said that, I mean, I think he may be right. I mean,
yeah, fuel the fire.
It's crazy. Like, but again, this is what makes it fun, right? I mean, like, the fans were having fun. Like, literally, he made his first save and they were going Igor. Like, I'm like, we're a minute into the game and the guy made a routine save. Where are you going with this? But I mean, it'll be interesting to see because I'm pretty sure they're going to have some fun with him again. Like now he got pulled and they cheered when when Georgiev was announced as now in goal for the Rangers. So they'll have some fun with him, and I think he'll have some fun with them too.
Igor's mad.
Yeah.
The most annoying thing though is that Ranger fans can't even come back with something in Game 5 because Domingue is such a hard name to chant. You can't even say Domingue sucks; it doesn't flow well.
Here's the interesting thing.
Crosby sucks. Exactly.
I told you guys we went out last night after the game, and we were in a local establishment, and I was talking to a Penguins fan, right? And he was asking me who if the Garden fans were getting on people, on the Penguins the same way the Penguins fans were getting on Igor. And I said, no, I don't think so, because I think Ranger fans are so focused on their team that they don't have time to be booing your players necessarily.
Right.
You boo Crosby, which I don't really understand, but I kind of understand. I guess people think he whines to the refs and he gets some calls, and so they boo him.
We've hated him forever.
But I don't think Ranger fans typically spend a lot of energy worrying about the other team. Like, you kind of worry about your own team, is what I think. Isn't that right?
That's what Knicks fans do.
Yeah.
We do the Trae Young sucks because the Knicks don't win.
The best guy to come play for them next year, right? That's how the Knicks go.
I'm laughing while you're telling me you guys went out. I just picture Vince walking around every city you guys go to with his notepad out, with every restaurant in the entire city
he's unstoppable.
He's unstoppable.
He gets off the plane and the first thing he's thinking, where am I going to have breakfast? It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, he cracks me up. But yeah, so I did want to ask, with Lindgren being hurt, Braun's really stepped in nicely these last two games. But Nemeth, on the other hand, has really been struggling this series. Do you think it's possible we might see Zach Jones in Game 4 if Lindgren is a no-go?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that. But if Lindgren's ready to go,
Nemeth's out.
I think that I think Braun stays in,
right,
and Nemeth comes out. I don't know if you can trust a Zach Jones or a Hayek, or I don't know. I mean maybe Zach Jones, because he's played with Schneider down on the farm a little bit. I don't think they were partners regularly, but I mean, sure they played together.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It seems like a big stage to put in a guy, and every time I would look at Zach Jones too. I mean, I love the way he plays, but he's so small, man. I just, I have my reservations. So no, I don't know if I can go with you there, but I definitely think if Lindgren's ready to go, or whenever Lindgren's ready to go, I would think it's Nemeth who comes out rather than
right.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking about the defenseman, there's someone that I want to bring up that hasn't even been talked about yet, which to me is kind of nuts. But in my mind, I think the best player in the series, he might not have
Adam
the stats
Fox.
for it, but it's been Adam Fox. So many people ask me, everyone just kind of assumes that the Rangers offense flows through Panarin, but I always make the argument that it starts with Fox. He's the first player to break out the puck, and he's the last guy to keep it in the zone. And I think the Rangers forwards trust when he's out there, knowing that he's out there to keep the puck alive, and they don't necessarily, get on their horse to get on the back check because they know Fox is there to, keep the puck in and possess the puck. So for you, I said it to Cody, I'll admit it. He was the guy that I was most concerned about going to the series, just because, he's a hometown kid. He grew up a Ranger fan. His first playoff series as a Ranger. He's a Norris Trophy winner. All the attention's going to be on him, and they've been physical with him. They killed him. Jason Zucker laid him out in Game 3, which for me, I'm a Jewish kid. It was a proud Jew on Jew crime, which was kind of funny in the NHL. But, for Ranger fans, I guess, or just, the people in general, how much more can Adam step up his game? Because I feel like he still needs to go to that extra level for this team to go on a run.
Well, I think he's been great. Let's say that I agree with you. He's been great. And I think he's been assertive, right? So that's the thing. That's the thing that I think maybe the second half of the season, he wasn't quite as assertive as he's being right now. And I don't, we all speculated as to whether, he was injured or, he was feeling a little sore from something that was bothering him or what. If you look at the numbers, I ran the numbers. He had 44 points in his first, 41 games or whatever it was. And then he had 29 in his last 34 games or something like that. So he was more than a point per game and then less than a point per game in the second half after the injury. So we were all speculating that maybe that there was some nagging little thing that was sort of holding him back a little bit. But if there was, it seems to be gone, or he's figured out how to to live with it, because he's been great in the first 3 games of the series. And you're right, they have been physical with him. I mean, and that's the book. That's they're not the first teams to do that. Everybody tries to do that. I mean, and you try and hit the guy that you think is the star if you can. Is there another level for him though? I mean, it's hard to imagine that there is, right? It's a matter of, he's making plays and creating chances, and it's just a matter of,
finishing.
Yeah, I mean, Kopp's got 3 goals in this series. Vetrano has 2 goals. Kreider has 2 goals.
Mika though, Mika's been scoreless.
You need to get Mika on the scoreboard if you're the Rangers, right?
Yeah, he needs to get involved. And it's funny because Adam Fox, I mean, his IQ is just like a 200. He's the definition of I'm playing chess while you're playing checkers.
He's Crosby. He's Crosby on the blue line.
It's amazing. But one other defenseman who I think has had a really good series and who really doesn't get talked about enough is Keandre Miller.
Yeah.
That one-on-one takedown of Malkin was probably my favorite play of the entire series so far. It was awesome. But I know we had just mentioned Mika, so I did want to find out, is there any other player you have in mind that really needs to get going for the rest of this series to help this team advance for the second round?
Well, I think it is Mika. I mean, and it's not to say that he's not playing well, because, look, most of the time he's up against Crosby. So a lot of the time he's focused on, stopping Crosby rather than, getting his own offense. He's got to stop Crosby first before he can get his own offense. So we'll see. And then, and in game 3, he had a couple of shots that Domingue, one I remember, of course, Domingue catches with the other hand, right? So normally, when Mika's shooting that one-timer from the left
blocker
circle,
side,
he's shooting blocker side, and in this case, it's glove side. But I think there was one on the power play where I think Domingue just kind of threw his body over there. Like, instead of reaching out and snagging him with the glove, he just I don't know, somehow he just threw his whole body over there and got it.
That was like late in the third. That was like 10 minutes left.
Yeah. So anyway, the point being that, I think it'll come with Mika, right? Because I think Mika's got a consistent game. Like, he's there. I mean, he's not a hot and cold guy. He's a pretty consistent player normally. So if he's getting the chances, eventually, 1 or 2 of them will go in. So I don't necessarily worry about him, but it would be nice if you're the Rangers to have one of those go in any day now. That'd be fine. Obviously they're down 2-1 in the series. Game 4, if you're going to win the series, that would be a good time to, for all these things to
start clicking.
happen.
I want to piggyback on that note, actually. So if the Rangers lose in 7, let's say they get to 7 and lose, or I guess if they lose in 6, it's kind of a different story. But if they get to 7 and lose, is the season still a success, or is it a complete failure?
I
think if they lose in 6, it's a failure. But if they get to 7 and experience a game 7, there's something to take away from it.
I don't think it'll be a complete failure is a big statement.
Yeah. Probably exaggeration on my part.
Golden Knights.
Yeah, disappointment for sure. I mean, I think we all expected them to win at least a round, right? Just the way they've played this year, and they've met every challenge. So I mean, I wouldn't think, just because they're down 2-1 in the series doesn't
think
mean,
Rangers in 6.
Should be up 2-1 goal interference.
Yeah, I mean, I picked them to win in 5, obviously, so that's by the boards. But I mean, there's no reason to believe that they can't win at 6 or 7. But yeah, I don't. At the end of the day, if they don't win the series, it'll depend on how it goes. Like, can you blame losing Goudreau and Lindgren for however long you lose him as the big reason? I don't know. I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah.
Not when the Penguins, are playing without their number one goalie and their number two goalie, and they don't have Dumoulin and they don't have Raquel and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Like, I hadn't really considered it. I just fully expect them to win the series. So
yeah,
I love the attitude. I love the attitude. I'm right there with you. And
I don't mean to come off as a pessimist.
No, I know it's interesting. I actually am not rooting for them, right? I mean, I'm neutral and I'm just observing. So I really should consider that possibility as well. I just hadn't, because it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me that they would lose. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, they've had a really, really good season. And every time that they were challenged, they've lost 2 games in a row. They haven't lost 3 games in a row all season. Boom, they win the third. They win that game. You know what I mean? Or I remember one time there was, I forget where we were. We were on the road somewhere, and I think they must have lost to Colorado. And at that time, and we didn't bring it up. Barclay Goudreau brought it up to us in the post game. We got to beat a good team. So that was clearly something that they were talking about in the locker room, and because they'd gotten beat by Colorado on the road. They got smoked by them at home. Calgary had smoked them 2 times, and so he's like, yeah, we got to beat a good team. And then they come back and they beat Tampa Bay or whoever it was.
Yeah, and Carolina back-to-back nights.
Every challenge that they've been presented with, they've met. So I don't see this as any different.
Yeah, and you had mentioned Goudreau a few times, and obviously things aren't looking too promising for him, unfortunately. When do you think we could see Tyler Motte back? Is it possible this series if we take it to 6 or 7?
That's according to Gallant. It is possible. We asked him about Motte today, and Motte is not on the trip. On Friday, I think when he spoke to reporters, he wasn't sure whether Motte would make the trip. He didn't, but he is skating. So, if he's skating, I think his injury was an upper body injury.
Right.
And he's skating. So, he could, but, I don't know that, this is not getting back. This is a 4th line player, and a penalty killer. He's an energy guy. He certainly will help, but I don't know that we're looking to him to kind of turn things around, but you never know.
Yeah. I think we need to start with Lindgren and then go from there for sure.
Yeah. That would be, to me, that would be, get him back first, and then that should make a big difference.
I want to step away from the series just for 1 second, because this is a question that I was asked that I didn't really know how to answer, but I'm kind of leaning toward yes as opposed to no. If Chris Kreider doesn't win a Stanley Cup in his career, does his number get retired as a Ranger one day, just simply because of the year he's had and his tenure with the team?
Yeah, I think so.
You think that's a lock?
They like that. I mean, lock. I don't know about lock. I mean, somebody. I had an old sports editor, way back when I was new at this, who said, you never called, because we had a habit of writing such and such future Hall of Famer. And he says, you never do that, because the example he gave to me was everybody would have thought Pete Rose would be in the Hall of Fame. So, Pete Rose, for whatever, he's not there because he didn't play well. He's not there because, because of other stuff. So, I mean, stuff could happen. Kreider's just turned 31. If he stays on this track, I would think his number is going to go up. I mean, he's going to be here for another few years, and he'd probably play into his mid to late 30s. Leadership, all that kind of stuff, 52 goals this year. Yeah, I'd say it's going up. I mean, unless something happens that, he leaves the organization on a bad note somehow, but I don't foresee that happening. So yeah, I would think that's a good question, but I think it's going up.
I had the same thought. I was like, if he retired tomorrow, I still think it would go up.
Tomorrow might be a little, let's not retire him tomorrow. Okay.
I exaggerate.
So since we're off the topic of the series for a little bit, if you could go back in time to witness any single moment in hockey history, what moment would you teleport to?
Probably, I would like to see the Bobby Orr goal.
Okay.
Where he goes airborne. That's probably the one. And listen, memories of things, the game's different. Athletes are better. Athletes are much more capable of doing things that, guys weren't capable of doing back in the early 70s and stuff. But he changed the game so much. And, it was the first defenseman to score 100 points. And, that play is so iconic that, to go back and witness it, I think witness that would be cool. Because I've seen a lot of stuff. I was covering the game when Gretzky scored 92 goals or whatever it is. I was covering a game when I watched Mario Lemieux. He'd scored a point in 46 games, and I was there the night when the streak ended. Actually, it ended against the Rangers. So, I've seen a lot of cool stuff.
That's awesome.
I wasn't there the night when he scored 5 goals against, who was it, the Devils, and it was like a penalty shot, shorthanded power play.
Yeah, that's sick. That
would have been cool.
That's awesome.
But I kind of feel like I saw those guys. I saw a lot of Gretzky, like the second back half of his career. I saw almost all of Mario's career. I saw, just about all of Jaromir Jagr's career. So I've seen a lot of that stuff. So if I'm going to go back and see something I haven't seen, that's the moment, I think.
Love that. And I know we're getting a little close, John. So you want to do one more each?
Yeah. Can we do one more question each? Is that cool?
Of course. Bring it.
I guess I got to give a shout out to my good friend Molly Walker, and she did tell me to bring up some stories on the road. Is there anything that's podcast appropriate you can talk about? I feel like we don't get to know the media members. You guys provide us with knowing the players. I think people want to get to know you guys a little more.
I will say this. I have said this to Molly on several occasions. I said it to her again today. She should stop with this journalism stuff and just go become a comedian, because she makes me laugh every day. I mean, she's really, so here's the thing about Molly and I. We're like kind of from the same part of North Jersey. And so I think that's probably got a lot to do with why we're as close as we are. Because she grew up, she lives probably 10 or 15 minutes away from where I live.
Where are you from?
Bergen County. She's from Bergen County, right? Yeah, that's where she's from.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
So we get along great that way. And it's really cool to watch her when she goes to these places for the first time, like how enthusiastic she is. I've been to Detroit, you know what I mean? Like, but like she gets a real kick out of going to these places for the first time. We went to Montreal the first time, and they have these like a little drawing of the Stanley Cup on the sidewalk around the building and stuff. And she thought it was the coolest thing. Oh wow, they have this little, and she's like taking pictures of it. And I'm just looking at her like, what are you doing, man? Like, but no, but the
for the Instagram photo dump.
The best Molly story is this, and it's her story to tell, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Next time you have her on, you should ask her about it. She's never late for anything. She's always early for everything. And one time, she actually got to the airport, realized she forgot something at the hotel, had enough time to go back to the hotel, get the thing that she forgot, make it back to the airport, and make the flight, which tells you just how early she was.
3 hours.
She's insane that way. But no, we have a good time. Me, her, and Vince, we have a good time going around, and the old guy, the middle guy who's the new father, and this young girl who really is just really, really enjoying it first time around. And it's a lot of fun to kind of see.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Definitely sounds like a fun bunch. I guess my last question, going back to the Rangers a little bit, the Rangers are clearly a very cap restricted team in the next offseason.
Yeah.
We have quite a few big decisions to make on guys like Kopp, Strome, Vetrano. So what do you think our top 6 will look like next season?
Yeah, so that's interesting. And that's one of the things too that makes this playoff to me even that more crucial, because they had the space this year to go get Vetrano, go get Kopp, and go get Motte and Braun. And I don't think they'll have that kind of space next year's deadline to go get those guys, right? So it's quite possible that this team now is better than whatever next year's team's going to look like if you consider that they won't have all these guys. But that is interesting. I mean, can they find a way to keep both Kopp and Strome? It's hard for me to see them doing that.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, at this particular moment, I'm not sure which one I would keep, because as much as I like Ryan Strome and as much as I think, he's got this connection with Panarin, which I think is invaluable. I like Kopp too. I mean, he's bigger. He's better at faceoffs, and he gives you a lot of the same stuff. So I don't know. I don't know which way, Chris Drury is gonna go. I don't know if there's a way that maybe he can, somehow trade some salary off and then find a way to keep them both or get them both to take less. I don't know how creative he's going to be. I don't know. Certainly I wouldn't expect that Kopp, Vatrano, and Strome are going to be here. So, enjoy it now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, who do you think? I mean, if you guys watch it as much as I do, like, if you had to choose between Kopp and Strome right now, I mean, who do you sign?
I think at this point, knowing Kopp will be close to $1 million cheaper, and I mean, watching them, like, you can't say, Strome's been performing better than Kopp has at this point in time, based on what we've seen from Kopp. So as much as I like Strome too, I think I'm leaning a little more towards Kopp, especially if it gives you a little wiggle room to try and figure something out with Vatrano. I think, having Kopp and Vatrano on the team is a lot more important than just having Strome for the future. But then another aspect is, like, maybe it's possible something doesn't work out with Kopp or Strome and they sign Vatrano and then look elsewhere with someone else. So
and there's other guys out there, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting off season. It's one of those things where we all know what's coming after the season. And so, let's just, if you're the Rangers and if you're a Ranger fan, I think you want the season to go as far as it can go.
Mm-hmm. So last thing, I think, just to wrap it up, this is coming out at midnight. So Game 4 is tonight as people are listening. Give us one goal scorer and your final score prediction for Game 4.
Oh, one goal scorer. I'm going to say Mika's going to get on the board.
Love that.
Agree.
And I would say I'm looking at like a 4-1. Because I think Igor is going to be super motivated. He's going to be rested, and I think he's going to be great. He's
going to shut him up.
Okay. I like it. You heard it here first. I'm sticking with my boy Trouba. I think he's due.
Oh yeah, well that's fine too. I got no problem with that.
And I'll say Hedel. Maybe all three of them will score.
All right. I like the Rangers win though. But yeah, this was great, Colin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I had a lot of fun. So hold on to my number, and we can do it again.
Will do. Have a safe trip back to the city.
All right, man. Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Right.